Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. So I'm reading through the Tanak night, the 18th of June, 2025. Of Exodus, we'll be reading out of chapters 21 through 25 and breaking them down. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at. These videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. And what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. And for those that want to help the channel move along, support the channel, we have our Cash App at the screen. That too will be greatly appreciated. This is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanak and the Torah. Tanak being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance from Genesis to Malachi. And the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses, our Savior and our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist our Hebrews that are waking up in these last days to that, excuse me, to their true identity. Shalom and welcome to the channel. Welcome to our reading through the Tanakh all night. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, Psalms. We have some current events, need to know information. Then we open it up for anybody with questions, comments, and dialogue. Then we go into our topic for discussion, which is we'll be dealing with part 2 of the wilderness of the people and the feed doctrine. Okay. Then we'll go to our reading through the Tanakh, which is our scripture reading. We'll be reading out of the book of Exodus, chapters 21 through 25, reading and breaking down. Then we'll pick a scripture at the end, like we normally do, and we'll read that scripture, then we'll break it down, break the content down, and then we'll close out. Okay? This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts, and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and wisdom, and we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers, and you, O Lord, has directed us to who you are and your role in going on with heaven and earth. Okay, we come this day, doubtless that you will appear and that you will gather your nation from among these wicked Gentiles. O Lord, you spoke through your prophet Isaiah, and you said that you would help Abraham's seed in these last days that you have scattered. You have completed that promise as of this day. And you said, O Lord, that you would remove the darkness from around us. Tarry not, O Lord, the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay. I'm going to read a scripture, or a psalm, I mean. Okay. I'll read Psalm 10. It's a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. Why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride do persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetousness whom the Lord abhorred. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. His judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffed at them. He has said in his heart, I will not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursings and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doeth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privately set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor, and he doeth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. He hath said in his heart, God hath forgotten, he hideth his face, he will never see it. Arise, O Lord, O God, and lift up thine hand. Forget not the humble. Wherefore do the wicked contempt God. He has said in his heart, thou wilt not require it. Thou hast seen it, for thou beholdest mischief and spite, to requite it with thy hand. The poor committeth himself unto thee. Thou art the helper of the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou find none. The Lord is king forever and ever. The heathens are perished out of his land. Lord, thou hast heard the desires of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thine ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Okay, that was Psalms chapter 10, a prayer for the overthrow of the wicked. Anybody have any comments on that? Anybody have any comments on that? Okay, I was watching a video. I think it was yesterday around noontime, and I was listening to these guys was talking about. I don't know if anybody ever heard about the O'Shea Bible. If you haven't, you might want to check it out. Do some research on it. But the guy was saying that they don't subscribe to the Bible. You know what I'm saying? They subscribe to this O'Shea Bible, and the thing is, they're saying that when the Creator was, we know that it's got righteous angels, 7 righteous angels, right? And then we had the wicked angels that came down to the earth, and they introduced a bunch of stuff to mankind, and we still reeling from it today. So their objective is that God, not understanding who He is, but to see the God in the Old Testament is wicked. He's like, how you judge it is that when He come and tell you something to do, and it's not good, then it's not He's wicked. So they're saying that what happened with Moses, with Abraham when He told him to go sacrifice Isaac, so that was don't add up. So they're saying that it's an entity showing himself to be righteous, but he's not righteous because of his actions. Then they say that when he sent Samuel to tell Saul to kill the Amalekites, that that's God is wicked, but not understanding, like I said before, not understanding who the God of Israel is, and then not understanding that He'll judge. So they was going to all these verses showing how, well in the scriptures, the 10 Commandments where He said, "Thou shalt not kill," but then He says He turned around and tell them to go tell Saul to go kill the Amalekites and all that. So I'm saying they far removed from the truth. And so what our reason I was bringing that up was right here. It says in Psalm 10, verse 2, "The wicked in his pride do persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. The wicked boasted of his heart desire. Blessed the covetousness whom the Lord abhorred. The wicked through pride and his countenance will not seek after God. The wicked through his pride and his countenance will not seek after God. God is not in all his thoughts." Here you go right here. "His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above his sight." Out of his sight. So most high judgments. Who is his order and all that is far out of their sight. They don't understand what they don't even understand the layout of how everything goes. Okay, so it says right here, it says, 5, "His ways are always grievous, and thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be at adversity." So like I said, between with pride and boastfulness and all that, the judgments of the Most High, who the Lord of hosts is, and all that is above their pay grade. They can't see that. So they hear. Okay, so with that being said, any comments on that? Okay, so with that being said, we're gonna go to some current events. I'm gonna play the video and then we'll break it down, get some comments and feedback. Okay.
It is day 6 of the Iran-Israel war. With each passing day, the conflict is intensifying. Israeli warplanes are pounding the Iranian capital, and Iran is firing back with missiles and drones. This is a full-scale military campaign. Look at the latest Israeli strikes. They targeted strategic sites in Iran, including a facility that built uranium centrifuges and another one that produced missile components. Israel struck both of them. And these are not just tactical targets. These are core pieces of Iran's military infrastructure. Tehran tried to defend them but failed. So both sides are exchanging fire, and the war of words is escalating at the same time. After 6 days of fighting, the Iranian supreme leader broke his silence today. That's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He said, Iran won't surrender. He released a statement via the Iranian press.
The Iranian nation stood firm against the imposed war, just as it will stand firm against an imposed peace. And this nation will never submit to anyone's imposition.
This was a response to Netanyahu, who's been talking about regime change in Iran. In fact, yesterday, the Israeli Prime Minister suggested that Israel wants to take out Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It's a plan that the American president, Donald Trump, is said to have vetoed. In fact, Khamenei took aim at the US too. He warned them against entering this war. Listen to this.
Of course, the Americans, those who are familiar with the politics of this region, know that America's intervention in this matter is 100% to their detriment. What they will suffer in this regard is much greater than what Iran may suffer. The damage America will suffer if it makes a military intervention in this field will undoubtedly be irreparable.
So the message from Tehran is clear. They won't stop at striking Israel. If required, they will target the US too. This is what an Iranian official said. That if the US steps in, Tehran will respond.
We come to the conclusion that United States is directly involved in attacks against Iran, we will start responding to United States.
At least 585 Iranians have been killed in the last few days, and this includes 230 civilians, and more than 1,300 Iranians are wounded. But Iran is not holding back. It is also imposing costs on Israel. Since last week, it has fired more than 400 missiles towards Israel and hundreds of drones. At least 24 people have died in Israel, and hundreds more are injured. Like I said, this is now a full-blown conflict. It has turned Iran's capital into a battlefield. Thousands of people have fled from Tehran. They're worried about more Israeli strikes. The tension is palpable on the streets of Tehran. They wore a deserted look today. You see, unlike Israel, Iran does not have dedicated bomb shelters. So metro stations and mosques have been turned into makeshift shelters. Petrol stations are now rationing fuel, just 10 liters of fuel for each customer. This has led to long lines outside stations and even more panic. Israel's warning caused the chaos. On Monday, they asked people in central Iran to evacuate. The message was circulated on X. Now, this is something that Israel has done before. It used the same playbook with Gaza, with Lebanon, and with Yemen. It issued warnings on social media asking people to leave. And even though X is banned in Iran, word got out. Then came a post from US President Donald Trump. He amplified the threats. He said everyone must evacuate immediately. The problem is, everyone cannot do that. This is Iran. It's a country that has been suffering an economic crisis for years. With no fuel, no money, and no shelter, for many Iranians, there is simply no way out. Unless, of course, there's a deal, a nuclear deal. For days now, Donald Trump has been pushing for it. He wants to revive the nuclear deal with Iran. He wants Iran to give up its nuclear program, and today he repeated the offer. Trump said Iran still has time, and it is not too late.
You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate.
Is it too late? You think it's too late to now?
Nothing's too late.
Trump claims that Iran has reached out, that it is ready to talk. According to the US president, Iran has made a proposal. It wants to start negotiations, possibly even at the White House. But so,
okay, any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom, I heard about it. And Iran said that Trump lying. They said they would never go to America, basically, in paraphrasing, and negotiate any terms with any American president, especially not him. Is what I heard today.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else heard that.
Right. Anybody else heard anything? Okay, we're gonna go to this next video. Okay.
Get when a sanctioned superpower starts quietly unloading tanks, fighter jets, and radar jamming tech, not in Europe or the Middle.
So this is another eye-opening. Like I said, we able to, in this generation right here, looking at the scriptures and then looking at what's actually happening. Because we at the end time. So Ezekiel 38, and it's talking to Magog, but it also says it's some African countries that's with them, like Persia, put a couple other, 2 or 3 other African countries just listed in that group. So right here,
Middle East,
Russia, right? You know, that's it's part of that alliance, Gog and Magog. They taking weapons, sophisticated weapons to Africa, Torah and all that. So it's like that.
but right here on African soil, Cold War. And this time, Africa isn't just caught in the middle. Africa is the battlefield. Over the past few weeks, Russian cargo ships have been docking quietly in West Africa. Not with grain, not with medicine, not with aid, but with howitzers, armored vehicles, electronic warfare systems, and yes, even fighter bombers. These are not the kind of deliveries you make by accident. These are the kind of deliveries you make when you're sending a message. This isn't Wagner freelancing on the Kremlin's behalf anymore. This is official, state-sanctioned, strategic. Russia is replacing its shadowy mercenary network with a new force, the Africa Corps, and using it to build hard military power across countries like Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. In today's episode of The Breakdown, we're unpacking a major Associated Press investigation that exposes how Russia is ramping up its military presence in Africa and what that means for the continent's future. We'll ask, why is Russia sending advanced weapons into the Sahel? What's really at stake for African nations accepting these deals? And is this the beginning of a new power alignment that sidelines the West? Because this isn't just about guns. It's about leverage. It's about resources. And it's about who gets to shape Africa's future or who gets to be a part of it and who gets left out. We're going to break it down, but first, a big welcome to all of our new subscribers and members. I'm so glad you're here. Black stories that are told with truth, with intention, and with care. And if that speaks to you, and I hope it does, then hit subscribe and tap the bell for alerts. Also consider joining our membership community or dropping a super thanks to support our channel and help us remain independent and unapologetic. Also, follow me on all my socials at Sandra Baby Boateng and subscribe to my personal YouTube channel, Sandra Baby Boateng, to hear more from me, including exclusive interviews and coverage from events that I'm attending around the world. All right, now, let's get into it. So let's start with what we know. On June 5th, the Associated Press published an explosive investigation, and I don't use that word lightly. It confirms that Russian flagged cargo ships have been quietly delivering military equipment to West Africa, primarily to Mali and Guinea. Now, these aren't small arms or leftovers from old stockpiles. We're talking about modern howitzers, BTR 80 armored personnel carriers equipped with radar jamming technology, and even Su 24 fighter bombers, the kind Russia uses in Ukraine. The shipments came in via vessels like the Baltic Leader and Patria, both linked to Russia's defense supply chain. They docked in Conakry, Guinea, and then the cargo was transported by land into Mali under heavy military escort. Now, that alone suggests that this wasn't just a delivery, it was a message. Satellite imagery from open source investigators backs it up, showing convoys of trucks and eventually a fighter jet parked on the tarmac in Bamako, Mali's capital. So, where are these weapons going? They're being handed off to a new entity you need to know about, Russia's Africa Corps. This is the state-sanctioned successor to the Wagner Group. After Wagner's leader died in a suspicious plane crash and the group's operations were folded into Russia's Ministry of Defense, the Africa Corps was born and is already active. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, all now led by military leaders, have either invited or accepted Russian support through this new force. Now, the Russian government says this is all perfectly legal. They call it military technical cooperation. But here's the problem. Many of the weapons being shipped and the ships being used are under international sanctions. Russia is using Africa to bypass restrictions and reinforce its global military footprint. And most of it is happening with little resistance or even attention from the international community. Trump's influence, both economic and cultural, is being replaced by something more pragmatic, security guarantees with no strings attached. But here's a question we need to ask. While Russia may be filling a gap and presenting a new type of partnership to Africa, is it really building stability? Because here's the thing, the countries receiving these weapons are not democratic. Many are military regimes grappling with insurgencies, political unrest, or economic collapse. Introducing more firepower into these fragile environments may strengthen regimes in the short term, but it also risks fueling repression, prolonging conflict, or sparking regional arms races. And what about Africa? For African leaders, this moment presents both opportunity and danger. On one hand, turning to Russia provides leverage, right? It allows government to diversify their alliances, resist Western pressure, and negotiate from a stronger position, which it desperately needs right now. But on the other hand, it deepens reliance on external powers and brings new forms of foreign influence into domestic affairs.
Okay, any feedback on that? What you think?
Shalom. I think it's interesting that they talk about Africa as if they need supervision. That the my perspective of the way she was talking and was as if she or those where she's getting her information consider Africa as if it is someone that needs, they can't make their own decisions. And one thing, I don't necessarily see their military rule the same way I would see military rule from the West. That's the other thing. There's some things that are culturally different, and then there's some things that are not. But oftentimes when they talk about Africa, they always talk about it from a perspective, in my opinion, that they're needing supervision and needing direction on how they need to guide and rule their countries or and or their provinces or territories. And it's insulting to me. That's just my opinion.
Right. It's as if they are incapable. Right.
Oh, right, and
Yeah.
as if everything that they're doing in the West is perfect. I
Right.
mean, the whole thing with the Iran and the Israel fight to me is the perspective that Israel gets to decide whether or not other people in the region can have nuclear arms, and that they attacked Iran because they didn't do something they wanted them to do, but yet they didn't sign the treaty. They continue to maintain their nuclear arms, but want to be able to tell other people if and when they can get something, and that it's a position of superiority, or that you have a better decision about what needs to happen in an area than anybody else, or you're the only one that should be making a decision. And that's how they talk about Africa to me.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's been going on forever. Anybody else? Okay.
Shalom. I've heard them say that in a few news clips verbatim that what Sister Tasha said, that Africa can't supervise themselves, and that's why we have to do it. I've heard
Right.
few officials from France say that.
Right. And you see it. You see it in their actions when it comes to nuclear weapons, but also when it comes to money. They don't think that the Africans can control their own money, their own wealth. You know, that's why they got all these all their money coming to their banks, and then they have to get permission from them to get their own money out of their banks. So the same way they see them not being able to deal with military might, same way they see them not being able to deal with money. Okay.
Shalom. I think it's just a continuation of control, though. If you keep saying out of your mouth that I need to, well, something is not true, then that means I have to take action. If you say it is true, then I don't have to take action, or vice versa. So the more they say out of their mouth that Africa needs help, or they need to be supervised, if you will, then that's what they're gonna do. But if they ever have to acknowledge that they grown men and can make decisions just like they do, then that means they're gonna have to do something different. They have to deal with them differently, and they don't want to. That's why they keep telling themselves these lies and then acting on the lies they tell themselves.
Exactly. And this, so I think this regional information right here, I think it's gonna really shut all that down. And then, like I said before, I'm always exposing what they did to Tanak, to our records, when how they created the New Testament. But that's just part of the story. Like I said, they butchered the Old Testament. People think that it's just a little something here and a little something there that they negated, but no, they butchered it. And then not only that, history. And this is an example right here. And this is what I've been screaming forever and a day. Check it out.
1492, and you're standing on the shores of what you
1492.
think is Asia. You're Christopher Columbus, and you've just been handed something that will challenge everything you think you know about your discovery. The natives of Hispaniola have given you spearheads, not just any spearheads, ones tipped with a precise mixture of gold, silver, and copper. But this alloy would be impossible to create without advanced metallurgical knowledge. And this alloy is exactly what African kingdoms had been making for thousands of years.
So this for all the Negroes out in America is Israel, and it's our land. So they found these African tips when Columbus got here, and the tips was made just like the tips on spears in Africa. But they suppressed that. And then he said high technology had to be used. So they got a problem right there. That's what the reason why they're doing. They're trying to keep us from getting back to where we was at, because we've been curtailed from our advancement when they came on the scene. Parasites. But anyway.
But this evidence, it's about to disappear into the depths of history. Christopher Columbus didn't discover America.
Okay.
And no, I'm not just talking about the obvious fact that you can't discover a place where people are already living. I'm talking about something far more significant.
Yes.
Evidence that Black Africans had not only reached the Americas, but had been trading with its people for centuries before Columbus ever set sail. This isn't some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. No, this is documented history that's been painstakingly buried by white historians, and we're about to uncover why. But before we continue, if you like the content we share here on the channel, please subscribe. It helps us spread the truth and bring awareness to the real history that needs to be taught. In the 1920s, a Harvard professor published research that should have demolished the entire white myth of Columbus's discovery of the Americas. His findings were so explosive, so contrary to everything we've been taught about American history, that the academic world didn't know what to do with them. That professor was Leo Wiener, and he was about to uncover evidence that African explorers hadn't just reached America before Columbus. They'd been trading with the natives centuries before Europe even dreamed of crossing the Atlantic.
Okay.
Born in Russia, Wiener's path to this earth-shattering discovery began with a failed dream. He had immigrated to the United States in the late 19th century, heading to British Honduras to open a vegetarian commune. But while that venture collapsed, what he found in Mesoamerica would prove far more significant. After returning to the United States and becoming a professor at Harvard University, Wiener began piecing together something extraordinary. During his time in Mesoamerica, he had noticed countless linguistic and botanical connections that defied conventional history. Words in local languages that matched perfectly with African Bantu and Arabic.
Bantu.
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned.
That's Israelites. Bantu. Okay. Check it out.
Have been there. Plants that originated in Africa, flourishing in American soil long before any European ship had crossed the ocean. These discoveries were so numerous, so undeniable, that between 1920 and 1922, Wiener compiled them into an extensive 3-volume work titled Africa and the Discovery of America. When Columbus brought those Guanan spearheads back to Spain, he did something that would set the path.
Spain. He took the spears back to Spain. I told you the story on that. 70 AD, them was Edomites. They came in the land, they stole the land in the book of Obadiah back in 143 BC. Antiochus, the Antichrist, came and ran the Israelites out. That Sue was there during the time of so-called Christ, which is Caesar, or not Caesar Basil, but Caesarion, Julius Caesar's son. Anyway, then they were ran out in 70 AD by Vespasian and Titus, and they was given safe passage to Spain. So we know who the culprit is that hid this understanding of these spearheads, right? Took them back to Spain, what Edomites said.
For centuries of historical suppression, he had them analyzed, confirmed their African origin, and then nothing. Nothing more was said about these extraordinary artifacts that proved Africans had been trading with the Americas long before European arrival. Why the silence? The answer.
So remember what I said, this African American thing didn't just start right now, right? So we know that according to Deuteronomy 28, it was prophesied he was going to get scattered over the whole world by his ships. So they fled Africa, they fled Israel, and they fled to the west coast of Africa, Israelites. So it was Israelites that was brought over here. These Israelites that came here, they call them Africans, but they're Israelites, okay?
The answer lies in Spain's colonial ambitions. You see, it was in Spain's.
What we're looking at is the age-old story of Jacob and Esau playing out.
Best interest to suppress any challenges to their discovery and claims of the islands of the West Indies. After all, you can't claim to be the discoverer of something if evidence shows others had already been there for centuries. Just look at the scale of Spain's investment in this narrative. For Columbus's second voyage in 1493, Spain equipped him with an invasion force that dwarfed his first expedition. This was going to be a conquest of the Americas. all in the name of God and the glorious Spanish Empire. The new expedition was 10 times larger than the first. Columbus himself became part of this historical rewrite. As he traveled through the Caribbean, he went about whimsically renaming every island he could find. Native names like Guanahani and Soameto were systematically replaced with European ones. The consequences of this cover-up were devastating. Within 5 years of Columbus's arrival in the New World, 90% of the indigenous population had died from disease or murder. With them died the oral histories, the testimonies, and the living memory of African contact that had existed for centuries. This systematic erasure worked so well that even as late as 2018, history textbooks told a very specific story. According to historian James W. Lowen's examination of textbooks up until 2018, while some books would mention the possibility of Vikings, Norse, or even Irish reaching America first, not one textbook, old or new, mentioned the West Africans.
West Africa.
Think about it.
Israelites.
Growing up, had you ever heard stories of African American traders in America? Nope. You were told the same historical BS that was fed to all of us. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, that he was the one to find America and bring civilization to its shores. All lies. Africans beat the white man to it. And white men for centuries rewrote history and ignored straight facts just to perpetuate a narrative of white supremacy. Here's something your history books won't tell you.
Here we go, right here.
Africans had ships, not just ships. They had 4 distinct types of vessels, and they'd been building them for thousands of years before Columbus was even born. The evidence is literally carved in stone. Ancient Nubian pottery from 3000 BCE shows detailed paintings of sophisticated vessels, long-holed boats, papyrus rafts, and hollowed-out canoes. Another painting, even older, dating from 3500 BCE, shows a bird's-eye view of an oared riverboat in Chad. These weren't just crude drawings. They were technical documentation of advanced shipbuilding capabilities. But the real proof of Africa's maritime power comes from European sources themselves. In the 1500s, just a few years after Columbus's voyage, Portuguese Captain Pacheco Pereira wrote something remarkable about the ships he found in Guinea. In this country can be found the largest canoes made of a single trunk. Some are so large that they hold 80 men. Think about that for a second. Single trunk canoes, big enough to hold 80 men. These weren't primitive rafts. These were sophisticated vessels built by master shipwrights. The West Africans had even developed an early form of the catamaran, lashing 2 dugout canoes together side by side, a technique so seaworthy that no one questioned similar designs used by Polynesian sailors. Yet for some reason, it was so unheard of that Africans could have done something similar and sailed their way to the Americas. But if you think 80-man canoes are impressive, wait until you hear about what happened in 1311. Islamic historian Amir Hajib reported something that should be in every history textbook, but isn't. He documented voyages west from Mali.
Did you know that you can have primitive teeth?
Notice what he said, Mali. It's Israelites.
In 1311, a full 150 years before Columbus set sail. When he asked the Mali emperor about these Atlantic voyages, what he learned was astonishing. The emperor, shown in historical records holding a globe made of solid gold, revealed that his predecessor had launched an expedition that would dwarf Columbus's journey. We're talking about 200 ships filled with men, another 200 ships.
We know the story right here. This is can't think his name, but yeah, it comes
loaded with gold, water, and enough provisions for 2 years at sea. The African emperor's instructions were simple but ambitious. Sail west, and don't return until you either find something or run out of supplies. But here's where the story takes a mysterious turn. Out of all these ships, only one returned. The captain's report, they had encountered what seemed like a river with a strong current flowing in the open sea. He was the last ship in line, and when he saw the others disappear into this current, he turned back. The others were never seen again. Modern ocean current maps show exactly what these sailors might have encountered. There are two circular rivers in the Atlantic, massive ocean currents that could have carried African ships straight to the Americas. From the Angola region, ships could ride the currents up towards the equator and westward, or from the western coast of Africa north of the equator, they could travel eastward along the same current. Portuguese sources confirmed that they had heard stories of African traders visiting Brazil in the mid-1400s. To demonstrate that such voyages were possible, Norwegian adventurer Thor Heyerdahl used ancient shipbuilding techniques to construct and sail the Ra 1 and Ra 2 in 1969 and 1970, proving that even ancient vessel designs could handle transatlantic crossings. The math adds up too. A sailing vessel typically averaged about 100 miles per day, even without sails. Even a simple raft or reed boat could manage about 60 miles per day in ocean currents. The distance between Africa and South America, it's actually shorter than Columbus's route across the Atlantic. When Vasco Núñez de Balboa ventured into Panama in 1513, he encountered something that shattered the European narrative.
Here we go.
His official log documents meeting members of an Ethiopian tribe, an entire village of black inhabitants located 2 days' journey inland.
So we found the whole village of black folks. These are Israelites that was on the ships. The men say they went into the current. So that's not just that village. They found villages all over the place. Black men. So they go back to what I said. You go to a village, you start seeing kids with afros, with dark skin. There's a Negro in a tent somewhere. Here it is right here. They even kept this out of history. And the Negroes want to say this our land. No, they came here. Just like the Bible said. Okay?
According to his detailed records, these weren't recent arrivals. The evidence suggested they had settled there long before any European ships touched American shores.
Right.
Balboa's account stands among dozens of similar reports. At least 12 different European explorers documented encountering black populations upon reaching the New World. But the most monumental evidence, quite literally,
just one. Okay.
Literally towers above the rest. In southeastern Mexico, 18 colossal stone heads rise from the earth, each one facing eastward across the Atlantic. Each head required quarrying massive stone blocks and hauling them 75 miles across difficult terrain. A feat.
Notice what he said. They found these black African heads. Everybody should know about this. The Olmecs, but they all facing to the east. Let that front mate.
That would challenge even modern engineering. Archaeologist Jose Melgar Serrano, upon first uncovering these Olmec heads, immediately recognized their significance. The facial features were, in his words, amazingly like African blacks. Every head bears distinctive headgear or protective helmets with unmistakably African characteristics. Broad noses, full lips, and pronounced facial features that mirror West African populations. Some academics attempted to dismiss these monuments as depictions of overweight babies. The presence of military headgear and mature facial features render such explanations absurd. The scale of effort, quarrying, transporting, carving, and erecting these massive monuments speaks to their profound importance in Olmec society. In the Temple of the Warriors at Chichen Itza, murals tell an even more complex story. The artwork clearly depicts 3 distinct races. It shows black.
Check this out. It's crazy right here. Like I said, ain't no way a man can have no black son, white son, and a Mexican son. And he a black man. Let that front mate. But anyway, let's check it out.
Against white invaders.
This is what they saw on the wall.
The latter, identified by their long blonde hair and distinctive weaponry, appear to be Celtic warriors.
Celtic warriors.
The crucial detail, the murals show blacks fighting alongside the Maya, indicating they had been integrated into Mesoamerican society long enough to form military alliances. The physical evidence even extends beneath the soil. Archaeologists have unearthed pre-Columbian African skeletons throughout the Americas, dating from 800 BCE to 300 CE. These remains span more than a millennium, proving sustained African presence across multiple generations, centuries before Columbus set sail. Think about that. Black people had sailed across to the Americas and united with the native population to help fight against the white man. No wonder this story isn't shared in any history textbooks. If people knew this fact, there would be cries to actually fix the entire whitewashed education system that has brainwashed our communities for generations.
No, get the hell away from them.
Consider the timeline. Between 800 BCE and 300 CE, while Europe remained centuries away from developing adequate seafaring technology, Africans had already crossed the Atlantic and established communities substantial enough to warrant massive stone monuments. The Olmec civilization, dated to at least 900 BCE, demonstrates such strong African influences that leading historian Michael Coe declared, "There is not the slightest doubt that all later civilizations in Mexico and Central America rest ultimately on Olmec foundations." The Olmec society didn't just erect stone monuments. They introduced written language, sophisticated astronomy, arts, and mathematics to.
So these Israelites, like I said before, so this we got the revelation on, they changed the manifestos on the slave ships, right? Thinking that was it, but this is why they changed the manifesto on the slave ships, right here. Like I said, they know more than what we know. Okay.
To Mesoamerica. They built the first cities in Mexico. Their influence shaped every subsequent civilization in the region, from the Maya to the Aztecs. Ask yourself.
And this is the crazy part. We're doing the same shit now in slavery. Everything we do, they come around and turn around and do it.
How does a civilization capable of hauling multiple ton stone blocks across 75 miles of terrain, a people who mastered astronomical calculations and developed sophisticated mathematics, just disappear from history? The answer lies in what historian Samuel D. Marble revealed about the American academic establishment.
Exactly.
As a subject for research, the possibility of African discovery of America has never been a tempting one for American historians. Yeah, no kidding. Marble's observation cuts deeper. In his analysis of historical narratives, he explains, we choose our own history, or more accurately, we select those vistas of history that have the promise of the greatest satisfaction for ourselves. So, America's academic institutions have deliberately avoided exploring African discoveries because the truth threatens a fundamental narrative of European supremacy. This is further supported by James Lowen's examinations of American textbooks through 2018. His findings expose a pattern. Textbooks readily acknowledge the possibility of Vikings reaching America first. Some even entertain theories about Norse or Irish arrivals.
They did the same thing to the Bible, to our scriptures, to our manuscripts.
But not a single textbook, old or new, mentions West African voyages. The erasure worked so perfectly that by the time evidence began surfacing, the colossal heads, the pre-Columbian skeletons, academics had already constructed an impenetrable wall of skepticism. Any suggestion of African merit.
Same with Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees. We got these Negroes scared to read it, telling them there's something wrong with it. It's tainted. They don't read it.
Maritime achievement faced immediate dismissal. Seafaring represented Europe and the white man's crowning achievement. After all, it was the technology that enabled their domination of the world. The idea that Black Africans had mastered the Atlantic Ocean centuries before Columbus threatened the very foundation of European colonial legitimacy. The notion that
No, let that friend make. Listen to what he just said, that the Black Africans, looking at the real history here, they had mastered the ocean.
Hey, Dad.
They had mastered the ocean. Then these nut buckets come behind them.
Hey, dude.
These nut buckets come behind them and throwing them in the ocean. Let that friend make. If there's some, any comments, questions on that?
Shalom.
Okay.
So I've been ruminating on one thing that he said. I've been thinking about this whole idea that while I believe that a lot of us did come from the west coast of Africa, this raises the point that I have been thinking about and studying recently about who was already here. And the
Right,
fact that, he mentioned something about 90% of the population was killed when they because
right,
of disease and all that. But who were all the people they were fighting when the American Indian Wars and the wars from Florida and all of that? Where all those people come from? If they
exactly.
killed off 90%. So that's part of that narrative that they're trying to say that somehow the land was abandoned or nobody was here for them to claim it. That's one. And I think that's also interesting. You're mentioning that those people were Israelites that could have come over here before. So that has something to do or tying in with some stuff that I'm reading about and studying, where the United States is questioning I think it's the 13th Amendment, the birthright citizenship that is
Right,
supposed to go to court sometime in the fall, where they're questioning who was supposed to be, who that originally applies to. And somehow it goes back to that whole thing with the Indians and who were Indians, who were the blacks, and because we've been named like three or four different or four or five different names, and there's a reason why that is. It has something to do
right,
with the citizenship. It has something to do with that time when when those Europeans were coming over here, they got to buy the land for $5. They call them the $5 Indians, and that
right,
only the white men could do that because they were trying
exactly.
to mix in and hide who was really here. And I think
Right,
that part of some of that is going to be coming out. Yes, some of us was brought from west coast of Africa, but some of us was already here. And I think that's where we're hearing that narrative where some black people are talking about we were here. They're talking about from another perspective, but as Israelites, we probably were also here as well as part of them being scattered. So I thought that's an interesting perspective that he said, and that ties in with some of the events that's going on right now.
right. And so like you just said, the guy just exposed the fact that when those DeSoto and all some of those other, even Columbus, when they came here, they distinctively seen black Africans villages, just like the ones in Mali over here, scattered over here. So when you say they came and then we wasn't disease prone people because of where we came from. So the Indian was dying off. So who they were fighting was those black people,
Right,
like the guy just said. That
right,
they got together with them. That's who they was fighting. So then they didn't twist the Negroes today, then twisted the story around and want to say that that our land is over here because they don't want to stay in this. Right,
right. And also, if I may, and I think that's part of what's also happened. Like, so we do know that not all black people are Israelites, and all
right,
Israelites are not black. Well, if you're going with the concept of what black is, but I just think it's interesting that there's something about them hiding and mixing in these groups of people so that they don't know who they are. And after a
right,
century or a generation or two, they didn't. So there are some people that are here that are black that are indigenous to this land, as well as those that were brought here. That's my belief. I'm interested in what you think about that, but I just think it's interesting how this whole idea of the birthright citizenship is coming back up, and there has been no discussion of deporting us, but now they wanted to be specific about what that 13th Amendment really means and who does it really apply to, and how that's going to go back to when they started classifying everybody and putting them in different categories and the changing of who they were.
right, exactly. Right. Anybody else got anything?
Oh, shalom, brother Linda. I was gonna say to the Mali Empire coming over here, Mansa Musa's brother. I had learned in when I was at my HBCU school, we had learned that that's his brother that came over here with the 2,000 ships in 1311.
Right.
And so, you know, that's many years before 1619 and all those other dates. You know, they claim that that we came after that. But at least at that time, we know that that's when the Hebrews came. But then also there's the mix up of what's that called, Brother Leonard? The Folsom people that were
Yeah,
also
the folks,
here
right,
even before us. You know, so
right,
those are all the confusions, which are
right,
from him, right?
right, exactly. And they know that. And so, like I was saying before, when they hear those the names that was on those manifestos when they brought those slave ships over here, they came out of Africa. They brought them out of Africa, off the west coast of Africa, but they had all of them had Hebrew names. So they had to hide that because then when you understand that, the Negroes that came over here when they got here, they everything they was dealing with, they was keeping Hebrew laws and statutes. The same people the same people they got from the West Coast came in on the ships with from Mali. They was Israelites, and that they had to disperse all that information. And like I said, when you look at it now, they did the same thing to the book. Like I said, that's what people don't understand about when the Most High said he's going to scatter us and he's going to hide his face from us. Not only did he scatter us as Israelites, he scattered out the word too. Line upon line, precept upon precept. He scattered it. And now he's bringing it back together. That's what these Negroes can't understand. The same he did to the people and the tribes, he did it to the books. Okay? So yeah, so like I was saying, they coming up with from a whole nother perspective. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So when you look at that 1300, what you were saying, it's nothing new under the sun because of how long was the Israelites in Egypt? They was in Egypt 400 something years, and what they had did, they had got to the point they had been there so long, they claimed Africa, Egypt as their home. So what the Most High had to do, the Lord of Hosts, he had to bring the plagues, run their ass out of there because they claimed they had start claiming the land for themselves. Well, look at now, same thing. Okay, and that's why I said what I was talking about earlier when they say that they want to say that the God of Hosts is a wicked angel because he telling Samuel to go tell Saul to kill all the Amalekites. Because the Amalekites wicked as hell and their origins. You got to understand that that's the judge of the whole earth. So all he doing is judging the earth, like the Creator told him. And you taking it because you ass backwards and you turning it into a wicked angel. Not understanding the setup and what these people have done. And then he say that you take the truth is the truth. No matter, I mean, so the origins of this Waspi Bible, a white man supposed to have some visions, sort of like Aleister Crowley or this other guy, I can't think his name, but yeah. So that's how they get their Waspi Bible. So they saying, don't look at that. Just look at the information that's in it. But you turn right around and say there's other bull crap that the way these angels, is how these angels come at you is evidence that they wicked as hell. If they tell Abraham to kill his son Isaac, then he's a wicked ass angel. And they got the whole, like I said, ass backwards. They ain't thinking like a Hebrew. They can't understand it. So, like I said before, and then you want to sit there and make it as if it's a dialogue. No, it ain't a dialogue because I'm sitting there seeing you starting off with your foot in the pot, a hot water. You starting out wrong. Okay. Anyway, anybody else got any comments on that? I thought I was going to shine a light on that because I'm always talking about it. And these little things right here is where they hoodwinked us at. With the because we didn't have an understanding of it. But now all we have to do is hear it and see the information, thinking like the Hebrew, and you can connect the dots. It ain't that hard. Okay. So nobody else have anything. Like I said, I had open it up for Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything from last night or the night before, or anything they want to talk about?
Shalom. I have two
Okay.
things.
Okay.
The first thing I was listening to the class from last night, and there was a mention about a lady had played a video about the Insurrection Act and martial law. I wanted to say, from my understanding, that's not true. There can be elections held if martial law or the Insurrection Act is declared. Now they can do what they're doing right now. They can break the law and
Right.
try to minimize it, but that's not true. It is required by the Constitution that we can have elections. They'll make it difficult, and they will try to stop it or rig it like they've done before. But that's not true. That's not the reason why. The other thing I wanted to ask was a question. I noticed that since the war broke out, one of the things that got reported was that their prime minister fled to Greece initially. He's come back since then, but then he initially went. But then I also heard recently that a lot of their people are fleeing to the Greek islands in order to escape what's going on in Israel. And I think you had said something about something ancient about the Greek islands, and I was wondering if you could speak on that.
Yeah, when you go to Genesis chapter 10, it says, let me read it. Go to Genesis chapter 10 in the table of nations, and it says Japhet, right? It says, start at verse 2, it says, the sons of Japhet, Gomer, Magog, Midian, these the same nations in Genesis, or Ezekiel 38. Magog, Midian, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus, sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Rephab, Tomagog, the sons of Javan. This is the Greeks, Javan, Elishabeth, Tarshish, Kittim, Dedan. Then it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles. That's the isles. And no other place like it. 200 and some isles. These are isles they talking about right here. Like this is another example that they ain't no son. Because
So
these
these
isles is they blonde hair, blue eyed, green eyed, red hair. Them ain't no killing Noah. That's a
right.
lie from the hell. Go ahead.
But I was just gonna say because I just thought it was interesting that I'm hearing seeing the videos and seeing the reports that a lot of those people, that's specifically where they're going. They're going back
Right,
to the Greek islands, and I know some of them come from Russia and Ukraine, but I was just wondering about why was
right,
that a thing that they're going to Greece of all places. I mean, they're
right,
not even in the war. I mean, not even being mentioned on the world stage,
right,
for them to be fleeing there. I just thought that was interesting.
right. They return home. But and
Yeah.
also he says another place in there it says those that go down to the sea. That's the same thing. He's just saying it in a different way. So what do you mean by they go down to the sea? Just like over here in America. That's why you got all these, even though year after year, these tornadoes and hurricanes come and demolish all these cities along the sea coast, they still do it. Because that's where they live at. And you say, what are you talking about? Everything the Most High tell us not to eat, they eat. Lobsters, crab, all that down by the seashore. Those people that live down by the sea. Like you had
Interesting.
all for all those centuries, you had Israelites or black folks living in Africa. They wasn't even living. They stayed away from the sea coast. You got so many people that, especially those Israelites that was in Mali and Burkina Faso and all those places, they never went to the sea. They never had been to the ocean until they came and got them and brought them to and put them on the street on those ships. When you watch all those African movies, notice how they put the emphasis on that. When they come to they amazed when they see the ocean because they didn't deal with it. But these people, another example to show you that they ain't the same people, they go down even today. They deal with all the stuff that's in the ocean. That's the Most High told us not to eat. Now we eat it. Okay? Any comments, questions?
Shalom, everyone. Brother Leonard, I just wanted to make a little comment about something I was seeing earlier today in reference to the detainees, right? That, yes, sir, that I guess they are not holding them pretty good in these detention centers and they are escaping, right? So now they're talking about building a detention center in the Everglades in Florida, and they were calling it Alligator Alcatraz. So when they built, only thing that was out there from the images was airplane strip. So you only can get there by airplane, leave by airplane. Other than that, you're surrounded by the Everglades.
Okay, so these Chinese people gonna be brought there.
Say that again, sir.
They're gonna bring Chinese people to the Everglades?
No, the immigrants that they are detaining. Yes, they're talking about building a detention center out there to hold them until they go to court, giving them that due process. But I was also watching some videos where they are detaining them now in different places. They are able to escape.
Okay.
But they was talking about if they put them out there in the Everglades, they have nowhere to go.
Exactly. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, here go. Like I played a little bit of this yesterday, and this some more information on it, how Africa is becoming one. But let's look at it. Then I can break it down as we go. So we already know they got America, the 50 states and the democracy, the United States of America. So let's check it out.
Leaked inside the new One Africa Constitution, how the continent will now be governed.
Africa got a constitution, right?
By Takunda Mabika, Southern Africa Breaking News, SABN, Tisu Vanu Vacho, and now Isu Tisu Continent Yacho. The beginning of a new era Africa. Listen carefully. For over 60 years, we've talked about unity. Kwame Nkrumah dreamt of it. Gaddafi fought for it. Sankara died for it. And today, that dream is no longer a dream. It's a plan. It's a document. And according to classified sources inside the African Union, it's already moving. SABN has received exclusive access to a leaked draft of the new Constitution of the United States.
This is what Pastor Manning was talking about.
States of Africa. A fully structured framework for how our 55 countries will be governed as one, not under a dictator, not under one superpower, but under rotating leadership, state-level democracy, and continental solidarity. What you're about to hear is not fiction. It is love. It is vision. It is real democracy for the African child.
This Italian trick with raw tomato is making prostate surgeries.
Part 1, why 55 countries, not 54? Let's start here. Some of you will say, but Africa has 54 countries. That's technically correct if you go by UN recognized states. But we're not talking about the United Nations. We're talking about the African Union, AU, the continent's supreme political body. The AU recognizes 55 member states, including the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Western Sahara, which the UN considers disputed, but the AU recognizes as a full member. So this constitution isn't for what the world approves, it's for what Africa chooses. We are 55, and every single one of us matters. Part 2, the presidency. Rotating power, no tyrants. Here's where it gets beautiful. The new draft constitution proposes a rotating presidency that will shift once every year, moving from one country to the next. Each country gets 1 full year to lead the continent, then passes the torch.
That means no more long-term presidents for life, no foreign-backed puppets, just equal opportunity. Every 55 years, your country leads again. That means in one lifetime, your country gets a chance to shape continental policy, host AU summits, and fly the One Africa flag in the center of the Capitol. Imagine 2027, United States of Africa president from Ghana, 2028, president from Zimbabwe, 2029, president from Malawi, and so on. It is structured, predictable, fair, and bold. Part 3, governors, the former presidents now under term limits. Under the new constitution, each current head of state becomes a state governor. They will no longer operate as kings. They become administrators of their state, formerly known as countries, servants of the African Parliament, term-limited democratically elected leaders. Every governor serves a maximum of 2 terms, 5 years each. Elections are managed by a Continental Electoral Commission, monitored by a non-aligned African court system. The role of governors: maintain peace, facilitate trade, enforce continental laws, report to the African Union Parliament monthly. No more rigging, no more overstay. If you serve well, your people re-elect you once, then you step down. Power now belongs to the people and their governors. AU Sentinel, an intelligence strategist in Addis Ababa. Some presidents are resisting this quietly. They don't want to lose control, but the people are pushing. Youth wings, diaspora leaders, and even soldiers are demanding change. The diplomatic ghost, a Pan-African negotiator. They already signed the
Pan-Africanism
framework in a private meeting. The official unveiling planned for 2026 in Lagos. Part 8, we asked Americans. This was their reaction. Sabien took this story global. We showed the One Africa Constitution plan to Americans. Here's what they said. I'm literally in tears. This is what democracy should be. If Africa does this right, it will outgrow America in 20 years. Hands down. Emily, Washington, D.C. policy student. Europe should be scared because this will shift global power forever. Many African Americans said this is healing. It gives them a reason to reconnect with the motherland, not as tourists, but as returning citizens.
Okay, any comments on that? What do you think?
Shalom. I think that I saw another video that was related to that, though. I can't remember which country was taking the lead of proposing the idea. It may have been Senegal, but I'm not sure. But they were saying that they all agreed on it in principle, but the details of it had to be worked out. The way that they said that this was quote unquote leaked, it to me, it sounds more like a blueprint, blueprint that America wants. Why would you be asking African Americans what they think about Africa when the Africans haven't made a decision about what they're going to do? And then the next comment that I make is sarcasm. They need to change the name because Africa is not the real name. It's named after a white man. They need to change it back to the original name. That's what they're doing inside their countries. They need to do it for if it's going to be one country, they need to rename the continent as well. It's just my opinion.
Right, yeah. Me looking at that, like I was saying, when Daniel said it's going to be the 4th beast is diverse from the other 3 beasts because it had the ability to relocate and establish itself again rather than sitting in one place, rising and falling. So this United States of America is ain't nothing new because that's what Nebuchadnezzar had. Nebuchadnezzar was a king of kings, and he ruled over all these countries, and he was the king, and all the rest of them had to become governors. Then the same thing with Cyrus. And then we see the same thing in Britain. Then it came here to America. And now we see it moving again, and it's going to set it up over in Africa. So it's an old blueprint. It's Bible. Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay. Yeah, last night we looked at we watched that part 1 of Fleeing America and Ezekiel 21 and the wilderness of the people. We're going to do a little bit on listen to a little bit on part 2, and then we'll start reading out our do our reading. Somebody got their mic open.
That today's lesson will be a blessing, today's discussion will be a blessing, and that Yahweh and his son Yahweh Shai alone will be glorified. Ezekiel 20, 33 to 35.
Like I said earlier, if you start out with your foot in the hot water in a hot pot, you can't get to the truth if you start out on, you know what I'm saying? You start out on the wrong foot, how you gonna get to the truth?
If Brother Zakia Jr. is ready.
Oh, Brother Judah, he left. He couldn't stay long, so he left. Yeah.
All right, so then it falls on you.
All right.
It falls on you, brother.
Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord Yahweh, and I will call.
So like I said before, they're jumping from Egypt to America, but notice what he reading in Ezekiel. He's saying, I took you out of Egypt. They in Babylon. So he's saying, I took you out of Egypt, but I'm going to take you out of Babylon too. They're not talking about America. That's what so many people don't understand.
You to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. And with that, we just want to say all honor, all glory, all praises to the Heavenly Father whose name is Yahweh and his son Yahweh Shai. So, of course, there's a lot of talk about Ezekiel 20 and this wilderness, that we're going to go into a wilderness at a second Exodus, that we're also, or that we should flee into the wilderness in the last days, right? We should flee from Babylon, I guess, and go into the wilderness because of Ezekiel 20. And I have said before that the only place that you find this fleeing into the wilderness or going into the wilderness is Ezekiel 20. And of course, that was rebutted by someone who said that no, it's also found in Ezekiel 24, which is why we did Ezekiel 34 in our intro, to first understand that Ezekiel 34 is a parable, it's a metaphor, and it was not referring to any particular wilderness or any beast of the field, because we are as sheep scattered, and the people that devour us are the beast. So when the Lord says it's going to prevent the beast from attacking us and devouring us in the wilderness, it's all parabolic, right? It's not actual. So now that we understand that, Ezekiel 20 has to be understood also in its proper context. Now, I will hasten to say here that this Ezekiel 20, as it was given by the prophet, is literal. It's talking about a literal wilderness. And we're going to, again, look at the time frame real quick, because we have to understand the time frame. But I'm going to preface everything by saying that Yahweh was speaking to the house of Israel. And the house of Israel, at the time when Yahweh was speaking to the house of Israel, was in Assyria in captivity. So remember, the house of Israel was taken out of the land of Israel. They were taken across the Euphrates into Assyria and into Gozan and into the land of the Medes and by Harbor and so on, right? That's where they were scattered. And at that time, Ezekiel was he was situated between Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom, because Southern Kingdom was in Babylon. We talked about that, right? Where we saw that Ezekiel was in the 8th year of Jehoiashim's captivity, which is in Babylon. Jehoiashim is a Southern Kingdom king. In his 8th year, Ezekiel was in Goza, was in Harbor by the river. Where's Harbor? It is between Assyria at the north and Babylon in the south. And he was right there in between. He was in southern Assyria and northern Babylon. That's where he was. And so Northern Kingdom was in Assyria in captivity. Southern Kingdom was in Assyria in Babylon. This is an event that, and an understanding of the timeline
This why I keep going to Ezra, just what he just said. Nebuchadnezzar got control over, eventually had control over the southern and the northern kingdom. Then when Cyrus came and conquered the Chaldeans, Cyrus got control over both kingdoms. That's why when you go to Ezra chapter 1, when the commandment went forth to fulfill Daniel 9:25, he says all Israel. But they want you to think he's just talking about Judah, Benjamin, Levi. But Cyrus got control of all 12 tribes, and he gave them the commandment that they can go back, the commandment that fulfilled Daniel, what Daniel had said. So same thing right here. All the Israel is under Cyrus and Nebuchadnezzar's control. And you have to understand that. So when they came out, after the 70 years, all of them came out. It's just that the 10 tribes decided not to go back to the land of Israel. Or some of them went, but most of them went into Africa. That's how they ended up on the West Coast. Then when Antiochus Epiphanes came and ran Judah and Benjamin out, the Lord sent Antiochus there. Then the rest of them knew where the 10 tribes is at. So they fled over there too. They went up to the top of Africa at first, and they were blocked off by the Sahara Desert. Then they started trickling through the Sahara Desert, and eventually they all ended up on the west coast of Africa, where the slave ship came and got them from. Okay, play a little more of this.
Now, the reason those days were agreed upon was that they wanted to contradict the scriptures. I will do another lesson sometime in the future, Yahweh willing, to show you how that from the time of the Greeks, and that is why they always talk about from the time of the Greeks, right? Because the Greeks are the ones who began to rewrite the history, to rewrite the events that occurred in the Bible, to contradict the scriptures. And then if they build the contemporary history, if they build the academia on those dates, then the secular history will always contradict scripture. Then they say the scriptures are wrong.
Okay, so with that being said, that was the Wilderness of the People, part 2. If you want to watch that, and then you have any questions on it, just bring it up, and when the Q&A come up, we can deal with it like that. But that was the Wilderness of the People, the Free Doctrine, and Ezekiel 20. That was part 2. You want to check it out. Anybody got any comments or questions on that? Okay, we'll go to Exodus and start reading. We're going to Exodus 21. We're reading 21, 22, and 23. 21 through 25. So You want to read chapter 21, Nidra?
Shalom. Yes, sir. Exodus chapter 21. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master has given him a wife, and she has borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out by himself. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. And if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do not these 3 unto her, then she shall go out free without money. He that smiteth a man so that he die shall be surely put to death. And if a man lie not in wait, but God deliver him into his hand, then I will appoint thee a place whither he shall flee. But if a man come presumptuously upon his neighbor to slay him with guile, thou shalt take him from mine altar that he may die. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And he that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed, if he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quit. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. He shall be surely punished. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or 2, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, that it perish, he shall let him go free for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned, and his flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it hath been testified to his owner, and he have not kept him in, but that he had killed a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and his owner shall also be put to death. If there be laid on him a sum of money, then he shall give for the ransom of his life whatsoever is laid upon him. Whether he have gored a son or have gored a daughter, according to his judgment, to this judgment shall it be done unto him. If the ox shall push a manservant or maidservant, he shall give unto their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. And if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit and not cover it, and an ox or an ass fall therein, the owner of the pit shall make it good, and give money unto the owner of them, and the dead beast shall be his. And if one man's ox hurts another that he die, then they shall sell the live ox and divide the money of it, and the dead ox also they shall divide. Or if it be known that the ox has used to push in time past, and his owner hath not kept him in, he shall surely pay ox for ox, and the dead shall be his own. That was Exodus chapter 21. Shalom.
Okay, so listening to that, when they brought us over here, they wanted to put emphasis on the Bible and doing the right thing. You see the slave movies, they always reading from the Bible. Well, why they didn't read this right here? I'm just telling you about if you beat a man and knock his tooth out, you should let him go free, and then eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. They read everything but this right here, doing the slave trade. You're doing slavery. Okay. Any comments and questions? Anybody have anything else on that? You want to read 22, Joyce?
Shalom, yes, sir. Exodus 22. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall pay 5 oxen for the ox.
We can't hardly hear you.
Yes, sir. Hold on. Take it off of here too. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall pay 5 oxen for the ox and 4 sheep for the sheep. If the thief is caught while breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there will be no blood guiltiness on his account. But if the sun has risen on him, there will be blood guiltiness on his account. He shall surely make restitution. If he owns nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If what he stole is actually found alive in his possession, whether an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. If a man lets a field or vineyard be grazed bare and lets his animal loose so that it grazes in another man's field, he shall make restitution for the best of his own field and the best of his own vineyard. If a fire breaks out and spreads to thorn bushes so that stacked grain or the standing grain or the field itself is consumed, he who started the fire shall surely make restitution. If a man gives his neighbor money or goods to keep for him, and it is stolen from the man's house, if the thief is caught, he shall pay double. If the thief is not caught, then the owner of the house shall appear before the judges to determine whether he laid his hands on his neighbor's property. Verse 9, for every breach of trust, whether it is for ox, for donkey, for sheep, for clothing, or for any lost thing, about which one says, this is it, the case of both parties shall come before the judges. He whom the judges condemn shall pay double to his neighbor. If a man gives his neighbor a donkey or an ox or sheep or any animal to keep for him, and it dies or is hurt or is driven away while no one is looking, an oath before the Lord shall be made by the two of them that he has not laid hands on his neighbor's property, and its owner shall accept it, and he shall not make restitution. But if it is actually stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is all torn to pieces, let him bring it as evidence. He shall not make restitution for what has been torn to pieces. And if a man borrows anything from his neighbor, and it is injured or dies while its owner is not with it, he shall make full restitution. If it is its owner is with it, he shall not make restitution. If it is hired, it came for its hire. And if a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged and lies with her, he must pay a dowry for her to be his wife. If her father absolutely refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the dowry for virgins. You shall not allow a sorcerer to live. Whosoever lives with an animal shall surely be put to death. He who sacrifices to any god other than to the Lord alone shall be utterly destroyed. Verse 21. And you shall not wrong a stranger or oppose him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall not afflict any widow or orphan. If you afflict him at all, and he does cry out to me, I will surely hear his cry. And my anger will be kindled, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, you are not to act as a creditor to him. You shall not charge him interest. If you ever take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, you are to return it to him before the sun sets. For that is the only covering it is his cloak for his body. What shall he sleep in? And it shall come about that when he cries out to me, I will hear him, for I am gracious. Gracious. You shall not curse God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay the offerings from your harvest and your vintage. The firstborn of your sons shall give to me. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. It shall be with its mother 7 days. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. Verse 31. And you shall be holy men to me, therefore. You shall not eat any flesh torn to pieces in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. That was Exodus 22, verse 1 through 31.
Comments?
Shalom. Yes, sir. It appears that again they didn't read this, like they didn't read the chapter 25, uh, because they're not. It doesn't apply to them. It's like it's only applying to back in the slavery day to the slaves, not to them, because they're not supposed to be creditors, but they are. Shalom.
Okay, yeah, I just want to shine light on verse 21. Going back to, like I said, every chance I get to shine light on uh, Genesis 15, when they say that 400, that prophecy is in America, but we see right here in 21, thou shalt, Lord talking, right? Thou shalt neither vex a stranger, nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. So go back to Genesis 15, right? And then we're gonna see it. It says in starting the prophecy, is starting at verse 12. And when the sun was going down, deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, know the surety that thy seed shall be a stranger. See that? In a land that is not there. That's what he just told him. He was a stranger in Egypt, and shall serve them. They shall afflict them 400 years. There's another example right there, like I said. So you want to read 23, AJ? Anybody have any comments on that?
Shalom,
Okay.
shalom, brother Leonard.
Yeah.
In verse 23, I can't remember which book we were reading, but when it says if in 22 and 23, when it says if you afflict any widow or fatherless child, if you afflict them in any wise and they cry unto me, I will surely hear their cry, and my
Right.
wrath shall wax hot. I
Right.
want to say it was in Jasher, but it was one of those ladies And I think it was in and Gomorrah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in Joshua we was reading. But it says she had cried out, and then the Lord of hosts came down. And
Right, yeah. I mean, that's when the babies in the wall, wasn't
I'm not sure if it was in Egypt or if it,
it?
because I think she was of marital age.
Right.
But I can't remember the story, but that just reminded me of that. I'll try to find it though.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's like 2 or 3 different examples of that.
Right, yes, sir.
Okay.
You said chapter 23?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And and it says, and thou shalt not raise a false report, put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Thou shall not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. Thou shalt not wrest the judgment of the poor in his cause. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous. Also thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And 6 years thou shalt sow the land, and shalt gather in the fruits thereof. But in the 7th year thou shalt rest it and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner, thou shalt deal with the vineyard and with the olive yard. 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine hand may rest, and the son of your handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of your mouth. Verse 14, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou camest from out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. In the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, in the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered, in thy labors of the field. 3 times in the year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with unleavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the first fruits of thy land shalt you bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee and bring thee in onto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images. And you shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be there shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before thee, and I will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come, and I will make thine enemies turn their backs onto thee, and I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee, and I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even on to the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert onto the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. And shalom. That was Exodus chapter 23.
Okay, got any feedback?
Well, it's just this the famous verse, verses 20 through 22, letting you know where the Most High is telling Moses he gonna send the Lord of hosts Michael to lead us out of Egypt and through the Nile River or the Red Sea.
Right, exactly. Yeah, another thing I wanted to sound light on was let me see where that was at. Let me see. Start at verse 10. It says, in 6 years thou shalt sow thy land and shalt gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year, it's the year of release, 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that that thy poor of the people may eat. Poor of the people may eat, and what they leave, the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner, thou shalt deal with thy vineyards and with thy olive yards. So if you go to Ruth, Naomi and Ruth, that's what was going on. You remember when Ruth, Naomi, how they go. Naomi took Ruth out there and they was gleaming the field. That's what he's talking about. That was in the 7th year, the year of release. They go to the corners. They had to leave the corners for the poor people to come and get it. They knew that. They knew that the corners was always had fruit in their vineyards, in their gardens. They always left the corners. And then it said, what the people don't get, the beasts of the field will come and eat. So that's like I was saying, thinking like a Hebrew when you understand that. That's what he was talking about when the 70 years was tallied up in the book of Daniel. When he said 490 years they didn't keep the law. Just the law they didn't keep. They didn't allow the land to rest every 7 years. So that was 490 years. You get 70 years out of 490 years. So in order to back that up, they had to leave the land and go into captivity for 70 years in Babylon in order for the land to rest. So that's what that was all about. Anybody else got anything on that? Yeah, and then 17 too, it says, if you go to when Achan seeing that in Jericho, it says, just go back to what I said, they dealing with him, physically dealing with him. It says in 17, 3 times a year, thy male shall appear before the Lord God. So they came just like when they came before him when they was looking for Achan. Then when he got to Achan, he told him he was the one. And that's how they judged it. And it's the same thing right here. So 3 times out of the year, all the males got to pass before the Lord oath. Okay. Everybody good on that?
Shalom, brother Leonard. Achan was the one that stole the gold, right, and didn't say nothing.
Yeah, it's the gold of the garments. Him, yeah, and they stoned him to death. Him and his wife and the children.
Oh yes, sir. So how come his wife and children got stoned?
Because it's his household. He's his whole household had to go. His seed line. Same way with how we broke down Georgia.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Right. And the situation with Ruth and Naomi. Remember, Naomi is Ruth is one of Naomi's daughter-in-law. Both her sons had died. Neither one of them had no children.
Okay.
And you see the same thing in Sodom and Gomorrah with Lot. Remember, we saw where Lot daughters had husbands, but they refused to leave the city. So when girls came out, they had husbands. Okay.
Yes, sir. I'm following.
So okay. So in Exodus chapter 24, I'll read 24 and 25. It says, Moses and the elders on Mount Sinai says, and he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Levi, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. So like I said right here, this is another how we know there's a difference in the Lord of hosts and Yahweh. So he says, and he said unto Moses, come up unto the Lord, thou and Aaron, Levi, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. They can't come up to where the Lord, where Yahweh is. And Moses alone shall come near to the Lord, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgment, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord had, we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of the Lord and rose up early in the morning and built an altar on the hill, under the hill, and 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Israel. So right here is what I was talking about. When you hear me talking about the Torah, the first 5 books in my introduction. So the first 5 books was he gave the Lord of hosts gave it to him. So they ancient. We can't get no ancient than that. The Ancient of Days gave Moses the first 5 books. That supersede Sumner and Egypt and all that. And Leo and Inky. So it says, verse 3, Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord, right? And all the judgments. All the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said we would do. Then 4, Moses wrote all the words that the Lord said. That's right here. The Lord gave it, dictate to him, and he writing it down. And he rose up early in the morning, building an altar under the hill, and the 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offer burnt offering, and sacrifice peace offering of oxen unto the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood, put it in the basin, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people. And they said, all that the Lord hath said we will do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. So let's look at this right quick, because I keep bringing this up. 8 says, this is Exodus 24 and 8. And Moses took the blood, right, sprinkled it on the people and said, behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. So right here, like I said, they want you to think that JC was a lamb, and then now his blood superseded his blood, right? So let's look at that. We're gonna go to, like I said, we're gonna kill two birds with one stone. Go to Isaiah, like I said, the suffering servant. You're gonna see this. This right here, a dagger to JC. So we in chapter. Everybody searching out who the suffering servant is in Isaiah 53. But like I said, Isaiah 52, 13, 14, and 15 tell you who the suffering servant is. It says, behold, my servant shall deal prudently, and he shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. Now here you go. As many were astonished at thee, his vestments, so he's the priest, and the garments that they wear, right? His vestments was so marred, more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Now here you go. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him. These are Levites and priesthood. For that which they had not been told them shall they see, and that which they had not heard shall they consider. So what they not seeing? They're not seeing them sprinkling the blood. What blood? This ain't even happened yet. The blood of the lambs, right here. Isaiah 24 and 8 says, and Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. See that? And said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which is the lamb, not no man. The blood of the covenant, which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words. So the same thing, that's how they're gonna know who the suffering servant is. Well, we already know, but that's when it's gonna become plain. You're gonna see the Lord of hosts standing there with the priest and the Levite right in front of him. Just like we saw in the Apocrypha when Joshua and them came back, put on their garments, got in their lineage in order, in their lineage, and they went to the altar and they sprinkled the blood. Just like it said right here, and just like it said in Isaiah 52. They're gonna shut their mouths because they're not gonna believe who it is they see standing there with the garments on and doing the sprinkling. Not no human blood, lambs and oxen and goat blood. Okay, so anyway, go back over here where I was at. 14. Let me see. Yeah, 14 says, and he said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Ur are with you. If any man have any matter to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and the cloud covered the mount, and the glory of the Lord abode upon the Mount Sinai. The cloud covered it 6 days, and the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud, and the sight of in the sight of all the glory of, and the sight of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on top of the mount in the eyes of the children of Israel. And Moses went in to the midst of the cloud and got him up into the mount. And Moses were in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. That's when he got there. That's when the Lord of hosts gave him all that information and he wrote it down. Okay. Go to chapter 25. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel that they bring me an offering of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart. Ye shall take my offering, and this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold and silver and brass, blue and purple. So go back to what I read the other day when it says Babylon Great, Mystery Babylon. These are the same items right here. That's why I say it ain't America. It's over there, and we're looking at it. So it says, and this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold, silver. Go back and read Revelation 18. Silver and brass, blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, goat's hair, rams, skins, dyed red and badger skins, sycamore wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and sweet incense, onyx stones, stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. So these are the same items that Mystery Babylon got. So that's how we know it in America. According to all that I showed thee, after the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the instruments thereof, even shall ye make it. And they shall make an ark of shaken wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half with the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shall make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof, and 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shaken wood, overlaid with gold, and thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the side of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, and they shall not be taken from you. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee, and thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold of beaten work, shall thou make them in the 2 ends of the mercy seat, and make 1 cherubim on one end, and the other cherubim on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof, and the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put testimony that I shall give thee. And there will I meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony of all things which I shall give thee in the commandments unto the children of Israel. So this right here is where the Day of Atonement, with the Zechariah chapter 4, where the Aaron's seed, the high priest, and David's seed, the king, meet with the Lord every year, once a year. And he said right here, he says, let me get it. 21. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee, and there will I meet with thee. This is once a year, Day of Atonement. And I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon this ark of the testimony of all the things which I give thee in commandments unto the children of Israel. And thou shalt also make the table of shechem wood, with 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half of the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereof a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make unto it a border of a hand's breadth round about, and thou shalt make a golden crown to border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for places of the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make staves of shaken wood, overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and the spoons thereof, the covers thereof, and the bowls thereof, the cover with a wither of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold of beaten works shall be the candlestick. It's the menorah. We made its staff and its branches, its bowl, its knobs, and its flowers shall be of the same. And the 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. Okay? 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with the knobs and the flowers in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with the knobs and the flowers. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick, and in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knobs and their flowers. And there shall be a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knob under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knobs and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work on pure gold, and thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereon, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it, and the tongues thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all those vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was shown thee in the mount. So that was Exodus 25. So notice the extent of the information he put on the making of these dishes and these testimony, showbread and the ark. So like I said before, when you didn't understand it then, you can see where the priests and the Levites, this is how you another way to notice who the suffering servant is. Where all these dishes would go, the priests and the Levites went with them. Notice when Jehoiakim was taken to Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar took him, the dishes, all that went with him. And then when Zerubbabel came out, Cyrus came out with all the dishes and the gold and gave it to him. They like I said, they connected at the hip. That's another way to figure out who the suffering servant is. The lamb, the ox, goat, the pigeon, all of them connected at the hip with the Israelites, especially the Levites and the priesthood. Okay. Any questions or comments before we go? Okay. We'll pick a scripture. Somebody want to pick a scripture, and then we'll break it down, and then we'll close out. Okay. Anybody have a scripture they want to shine right on? Okay. Let me get one. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll go back to Isaiah 52. So read that, show you the suffering servant again. We in Isaiah 52, 13, 14, 15. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. As many were astonished at thee, for his vesture was so more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. So shall he sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him, for that which had not been told them shall they see, and that which they had not heard shall they consider. So these 3 verses right here, they ringing loud. So it shows you that not only is they the suffering servant, but they he said in 14 they garments, because it's been over 2,500 years since we ran out of the land of Israel. So their garments were so marred up to this point. And like we saw earlier on the video, how they lied about the information about us being over here. They lied and misconstrued the understanding of who the Levites was and who the suffering servant is. But when the time comes, they're gonna appear again with the Lord with those garments on, raised up. And like I said, it ain't but one group of men on the planet that's sprinkled. That's the Levites and the priesthood. And that's what it's telling you right here in Isaiah 52, 13, 14, 15. Okay. So with that being said, nobody else have nothing. We're gonna close out. We got our women's advanced Bible study tomorrow night. The men can come in through YouTube. I see everybody did. I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament in Tanak, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.